Errol, why are you running for CTU president right now?
That's an easy answer. I'm running so that everyone gets great representation.
What do you believe CTU members are not getting from the current leadership?
I don't think they're getting proactive representation. And that's what I want to do differently. I want to be proactively speaking for my members, not reactively.
It appears that many offices are running as a group. Why isn't this just a new team? And what does independent minds for a collective union mean in practice?
I ask for people to run with me, that each one of them has a strong, solid voice that's uniquely their own. I didn't want yes men. I have no respect for yes men. I want people that'll run with me that will tell me what I need to hear, not what they think I want to hear.
What are the top 3 priorities you would tackle in your first 90 days?
I think what we have to tackle, number one, is building brighter futures, because the district just doesn't have what it takes to do this on their own. Then I think we have to go into the enforcement of our contract. We have a decent contract, but we've got to work on the enforcement and equity aspects of that contract. And then lastly, and this is going to take more than 90 days, but it's time to modernize that CTU Constitution.
Can you expand upon modernizing the CTU Constitution?
Yeah, in a few weeks, people are going to be voting paper and pencil in a cardboard ballot box. We need to go to electronic voting. Electronic voting is safe, it's secure, it's efficient, and based on the studies that Mark Steinbrenner and Chris Malinowski did with companies that do that, it can actually be cheaper than the ballot box.
What do you see as some of the problems with building brighter futures?
Simply put, there is no plan. The district said this building's going into that building and you guys figure it out. Well, we're going to need to figure that out, and we'll need time to do that. It just, again, nuts and bolts, basic questions. People in receiving buildings, where are the classrooms going to be? Who's going to determine where the classrooms are going to be? Who's going to determine the allocation of supplies, resources? How are we going to merge these buildings together? Those are things that need to be talked about.
Can you expand on the equity and enforcement of the contract idea?
Not all chapter chairs have the same support that others do. Not all of them have the same knowledge of resources. I think we have to go back to, and it's been many years since we've had this, but monthly chapter chair meetings for all chapter chairs, not just new ones, where we work together to define and enforce the contract.
Teachers feel like communication has become filtered and controlled. How will you make CTU more transparent and member-driven?
First off, my phone number is 216-410-0421. And you can call that number anytime, and you won't need to make an appointment with my secretary to speak to me. I think it's horrible that we're depending on Facebook to get our facts out there. Facebook's a tool, and it's great for some of the memes that have been out there. It's been great for me. But I think direct communication is the most effective, and that's often in person.
Would you commit to open member meetings where educators can speak freely and ask questions live?
Absolutely. The last all-member meeting that the members demanded by signing a petition turned out to be a webinar, a commercial for CTU executives to talk without taking questions that weren't pre-packaged or pre-planned. That will never happen with me as CTU president.
What is your plan to restore trust between executive board and the rank and file members?
More communication, in person and otherwise, but executive board members have to get out to buildings. They can't just stay in their offices at the Halley building. They have to get into the building, see what the working conditions are, the learning conditions, and they have to speak to members. And then we have to listen to the members. That includes having members be able to access us other than just on Facebook.
A major criticism of current union leadership is that they're not forceful in contract implementation. What would you do differently?
Well, I think those of us that are actually in the school buildings living under the contract would definitely make sure it's enforced. And I think that's the difference between the people running with me and those people who are currently at the Halley building. They're not in the buildings. We've got all kinds of options, everything from the grievance all the way to a strike action. And there's so much in the middle that we've ignored for years. I think enforcing the contract boils down to people working in the buildings, knowing what needs to happen.
How will you ensure that negotiated language actually becomes real benefits for teachers, not just words in a contract?
By making sure that we're listening to the members and speaking to each other. I know that principals talk to each other, network leaders talk to each other. They develop a plan and they see what sticks at individual buildings, and they say, well, at this building they're doing it, not asking any questions. They're united. We need to be united. We're united by communicating with each other.
Hard-to-staff buildings have been discussed for years. What concrete incentives or strategies would you pursue to address staffing and retention?
For years, we've talked about that. No action's been taken. And we've approved contract after contract where hard to staff hasn't been enforced. I think that's failing to negotiate in good faith. That's an unfair labor practice. I also think it should be a class action grievance to start off. Clearly, we have buildings where they can't find teachers when we have substitutes and open positions for an entire year. Clearly, we have subject areas where the teachers aren't allowed out of those subject areas because they're hard to staff. I think it comes down to this, determining that this is something the board's not going to do on their own. We should have fought for this years ago, and we'll fight for it now.
Teachers in extended year, extended day school lost pays through unilateral board action. What should CTU leadership have done at that moment?
That was, for me, the most disgusting failure in leadership that I've seen. There should have been proactive leadership in that. A year ago when this started, the CTU president and other executives should have demanded to be part of the process, not respond to it after the fact. That demand, we would have been supported by the public in this. The public would have demanded that we had a seat at the table and we didn't have one. That would never happen with me. I could never see any circumstance where I would put my hands up in the air and say, well, the district didn't tell me what was happening. The district's going to tell me what's going to happen. I'm going to be part of the process.
How would you show up differently at board meetings and public fights?
Well, I always show up to board meetings and I show up to the public as well. And I often use the media to do that. And I want to continue to be able to do that, not be told that I can't speak to the media. I think involving the public is where we win, like they did in Chicago, like they did in San Francisco. We have to be engaged with the public, part of the community, not seen as some isolated entity that only shows up when we want a levy to pass.
Professional development has been a major frustration. The contract says virtual PD should happen whenever possible, yet members are still dragged into chaotic mass sessions. How would you enforce contract language?
We'd have to write better contract language. You look at these contracts behind me. The last 18 years worth of these contracts were negotiated by team. And those contracts say things like, when possible. The district just has to say it wasn't possible. You can't define when possible. You can't design. This contract language needs to be stronger. That's how I would fix that. The next contract won't say when possible.
What does fighting for the contract actually look like under your leadership, other than asking the district what other options are in the union toolbox?
It means treating all members with respect in every interaction that we have with the district. It means when the district doesn't treat us with respect, we enforce the contract. And if it means we go to the public backs us, the public supports us, the public knows we're with their children. We can win these fights. but we have to demand that we're treated with respect.
The district claimed financial crisis, yet executive received huge raises. How do you respond to members who feel educators were told to settle while downtown cashed in?
I would tell those educators they're correct. I would tell those educators that's not something they're feeling, that's something that happened. This happened as far back as 2016. I noticed this at a Board of Education meeting where they didn't call them raises. They called them salary band adjustments. And that contract we settled for 2.5%, 2.25% raises, and administrators received anywhere from 8 to 15%. We knew this was coming again. I was again at this board meeting alone when they called these salary band adjustments, trying to say they weren't raises. Specifically, the CTU negotiating team failed. They should have had a Me Too clause in the contract. Whatever administration receives, we should have received. The meeting after that contract was approved, our school CEO received a 5% raise. We should have had a Me Too clause. We'll get that raise the same as he did. Is that
What is your approach to bargaining next time so that teachers don't get left behind?
My approach to that would be actually talking to teachers, actually surveying every teacher, actually having teachers determine what their priorities are, not picking from a list that I give them. Every teacher has a voice. Every teacher has things to talk about.
How will you support members dealing with curriculum mandates being forced down from above with very little protection?
Again, that boils down to a contract, whether it's strong or weak, and it boils down to our contract saying that all of us should be treated with dignity and respect. At the end of the day, teachers are the experts in the room. The parents know that, the public knows that. We have to make sure the district knows that as well.
Union pride matters to members. Shirts, visibility, solidarity. Why does that matter, and how would you rebuild a culture of unity?
Well, I think that matters to members because it shows we're all part of one bargaining unit. And I think that does need to rebuild. And, members are not asking for anything tough. They're asking for simple solutions, communication, and a way to show their pride. And one thing that I keep getting asked about again and again are t-shirts. We've got a room the size of a classroom down at the C2 office that has boxes and boxes of shirts in there that are dry rotting because they're not being used. These are easy answers. These are things we can fix.
How will you ensure the union serves every member, not just insiders or leadership slate?
Well, that's what brought us here to 2026 in this election where there's a group of people running. Each one of us has our own voice, and each one of us is in these buildings, in these classrooms, and each one of us is a regular member, just like everyone else. We're not changing the rules for someone. We're not ignoring the CTU Constitution. We're not getting a letter from the CTU's attorney saying, oh, it's okay to do this as long as no one notices.
What would you say to members who are nervous about change and wonder, is Errol ready to lead?
At the end of the day, I understand those fears. Change is hard. I was not prepared to sit and watch these contracts again and again come back weak, vague, or unenforceable language. And at the end of the day, more and more members have gotten to know me. And those members that have gotten to know me have supported me. And those are the members that told me this time, this year, this election was when I needed to run.
What makes you different from the current CTU administration beyond criticism?
I think at the end of the day, people that know me know I have one focus, and that's the CTU. I'm focused on the members' wages, their working condition, transparency, and my actions, and community engagement with the public. That's the only thing that I care about.
What does success look like after one term with you as president?
Simple answer, a strong CBA that's enforced all over the contract. East side, west side, K to 8s, high schools, enforced at a building if the principal likes you and gets along well with you, and enforced at the building where the principal's used to writing Article 18s. A strong CBA.
If you could say one thing directly to a classroom teacher who feels unheard right now, what would it be?
If I could say one thing to a classroom teacher that feels unheard right now, I'd say call me. I have time to talk to you. My number's 216-410-0421. I'm going to listen to what you have to say. I'm not going to pawn you off on a chapter chair or tell you to call somebody else. I'm going to do everything I can to listen to what you're saying, give you a response, and make it happen.
How will you communicate to members to make sure that we feel heard?
I think the easiest thing to do is our monthly delegate assemblies. They are open to all CTU members, and all CTU members should be invited to attend. If our facilities are large enough, especially when we have them at Max Hayes, or even more so when they're virtual. I'm a fan of in-person meetings. You lose something when it's just virtual, but then again, that's because of the way our virtual meetings have been done. We don't allow the members to speak directly, and we should. I think that our CTU website should be so much more than it currently is. It should be an interactive, active space for members to communicate directly with CTU executives at any given time without an appointment. I also understand some of the elements of Facebook where our current official page, and I'm not sure what makes it official, has unapproved post or post pending approval. That has to stop. We can't hide behind questions that are uncomfortable.
You're on the executive board right now, so if a change is needed, doesn't that mean you're needing to change as well?
Yeah, I need to change my position to president. Mark Steinbrenner, Chris Malinowski, and I were all elected to the executive board, and we've all been told by this current president if we want to speak to her, we need to make an appointment to go through her secretary. We've been told we have no assigned duties, which is in the CTU Constitution, other than my assigned duties of taking pictures for the critique and what Mark Steinbrenner is constitutionally assigned as a trustee. We have a second vice president at the CTU, Chris Malinowski, who for the first time in nearly 40 years defeated a sitting incumbent second vice president, and Chris has been given no assigned duties. That's disgusting. The members put us down there. The members want us to work for them. We want to work for the members, and we've been handcuffed and muzzled by a CTU president that's afraid of seeing what we can do.